Hello, this is Jamie Archer, co-founder of Mutts of the Midway. Thank you so much for joining this training. The Mutts voice is important in any role you have with Mutts, since each of us represents the organization in the work we do and beyond. So let's get started. Let's start with the why. Why is this important? Simply put, we want Mutts to be the best place to adopt, foster, and volunteer with. We'll look at this in two different ways. First, why is this important internally? If you're here, then you believe that dogs deserve a life of health and happiness. That's why you're a part of the Mutts team. So while we're all dog lovers, it's important to remember that people make that happen. We are not a rescue that subscribes to the people suck mentality because we are surrounded by incredible humans doing great things for the dogs. And that's not to say that we have rose-colored lenses of the world either. Rescue work is hard. We see tough situations. We go through tragedies when we lose a dog or find out they're terminal. We see animals being or having been mistreated. We know these things happen, but will focusing on them help the dogs? Will being bitter and angry help the dogs that are in need today? Instead, we focus our energy on helping the animals and building our community. We want the Mutts team to always be the best team. Plus, I always think the dogs don't judge, so why should we? Next, why is this important externally? Our goal is to get as many dogs into loving homes as we can. If we want to do that, we must engage people we haven't before and keep the people that we have engaged on the team. We want every person to know the impact they have on the dogs and Mutts of the Midway. And we want more people to say yes to rescue dogs. To give some perspective, I'd like to share some statistics from Best Friends about the current state of pet ownership in the US. 63.4 million US households have at least one dog in their home. And there are 97 million dogs owned in the US. Of those 97 million, 46% were rehomed privately. This includes stray dogs who were not able to be reunited with their owners, dogs who were rehomed by their owner, and dogs that were given away or sold by friends and family. There are a lot of great organizations doing work in these areas, such as Lost Dogs Illinois, who helps reunite pets with their owners, and efforts like CRISP that we are a part of that are dedicated to keeping pets in their homes whenever possible. 36% of those pets were adopted. Woohoo! How can we keep this momentum going? Lastly, 28% were purchased from a pet store or breeder. Before I get into why this is very important to us, I do want to address breeders for just a minute, because this can be a contentious topic in animal welfare. In my opinion, not every breeder is bad. There are breeders out there that love the breed, take care of their animals, and positively impact dogs because of it. Those breeders are not the problem we are trying to address. We want to dissuade people from going to breeders who are only in it for the money or do not properly care for their animals. We want people to have spayed and neutered pets so they don't have accidental litters in their home. We want people to have vaccinated, healthy animals that don't suffer needlessly. We accomplish this by providing an excellent experience with our dog rescue to show them that saving the life of a shelter dog is a loving, kind choice. So only 36% of our country's dogs were adopted. We also know that dogs are killed for space every day in overburdened shelters across the country. So how do we connect the dots? How do we get more people to say yes to rescue dogs? Our goal is to get as many dogs into loving homes as we can. If we want to do that, if we want everyone to adopt, then we must make adoption available to everyone. We will talk about adoption policies next, but it's important to remember, we believe that everyone is doing the best they can, and when they know better, they will do better. So we do not judge people for their past mistakes if they have learned from them. We meet people where they are and show them what positive pet ownership looks like. So let's talk about strict rescue policies. Here we have our lovely president, Ashley Archer. She is holding her first foster puppies in her arms in 2013. The one on the left, Toby, was adopted by a college friend who was still in school at the time. Toby just moved to California with her this summer. And that little dude on the right was adopted by her brother, by Ashley's brother, who takes him shed hunting and gives him all the love he can stand. I think so often of how far we have come as pet owners and rescuers since this photo. And we would not be where we are today if we had been judged and rejected instead of patiently coached all those years ago. Because I will tell you that we would have woefully failed any strict rescue policies if they had them at that time. Instead, well over 150 animals have stayed with us on their journey to their families since that day. And we are fortunate to work alongside each of you as we continue this work through Mutts of the Midway. Our experience has given us this. We believe that everyone deserves to know the love of a pet, and every pet deserves a home. I believe that barriers to adoptions are misguided. The policies are created in the best interest of the animal, but do they actually help the animals? I've listed out a few barriers that I've seen over the years. Thinking of all the things that are listed here, if Mutts adopted these policies, would you be approved to adopt? I know I wouldn't. And ultimately, when people are rejected from rescue, 95% of those people will still get a pet. So are these policies really helping the animals? Again, if we want everyone to adopt, then we must make adoption available to everyone. Our priority will always be our dog's health and happiness, but we would rather educate potential adopters than shame them for not knowing what we know now. So let's talk about the Mutts Voice. First, the words you use and the way it's said matter. We'll talk a lot about language choices in just a bit, but first, let's talk about tone and delivery. I don't have many rules to share around this, but I think this example will illustrate the importance. This simple phrase seems pretty straightforward at first glance, right? Let's see how tone and delivery can influence it. Oh, that dress! I love it. You can hear the excitement and happiness, right? You might be seeing your best friend in her wedding dress for the first time. Now let's read it again. Oh, that dress. I love it. Not very excited or happy, right? Clearly, there's a huge difference between how this simple phrase would be received based on the tone and delivery. So while we don't have many rules around this, we do ask that you are mindful with your tone and delivery and choose to give others the benefit of the doubt. The Mutts Voice is how we communicate that with each other and the public. It is how we represent the dogs in our care and welcome others to get involved in the work. It is kind, fun, light, inclusive and open, transparent, grateful. We don't make assumptions. We don't blame or pass judgment. We are not cringeworthy. We don't want your heart to hurt when you think of Mutts. We want you to be filled with hope and empowered to be part of the solution. And we have the Mutts Voice woven throughout the organization. From our goals to our values to our policies and procedures, we are guided and grounded by our core values, mission, and vision. So while this might be the first time you've seen these, or it's been a while, know that these slides can be used as a guide in all things Mutts. And speaking of goals, in case we haven't shared it widely enough, we have a goal of saving 100 dogs this year. Transparency is something that is very important to us. That being said, we don't share every detail of a dog in an adoption profile, nor do we disclose every vetting issue that comes our way on social media. So, what gives? How do you know what to share with who and how much? When it comes to the gory, painful details, I think to myself this: if this is hard for me to witness as an experienced rescuer, would somebody who is maybe interested in getting involved to help sweet puppies going to be empowered by this or heartbroken? Additionally, while we will never put out blatantly wrong information, remember to ask yourself, is this item or task to pull people in or to deliver honest feedback to guide a decision? Or think of it this way: is this information that would be included in an online dating profile or something that would be disclosed in couples counseling? You are the same person whether you are at a funeral or at a wedding, but you probably act very differently at those two things. Marketing brings you in, and transparency keeps you on the team. It is not one or the other, it is both throughout the process. As I mentioned already, a great example of this are adoption profiles. Pictured here is Cupid. If we would have put in his adoption profile, very mouthy, might knock over young children, this amazing family who had older children might have passed on him. Both of those things were true, but instead we focused his profile on how fun and goofy he was. At the time of the meet and greet, his foster was sure to explain his positive qualities and any quirks. And this goofy boy has been with his family for nearly a year and is doing great. So here's a great example. The facts around Daisy May are this: she entered the shelter as a stray with her 11 puppies. The rescue team at Palm Valley shared her with us, and we tagged the whole family and brought them to Mutts of the Midway. All 11 of Daisy May's puppies have been adopted, and she is still waiting for her home. On the left of her photo, you will see one version of her story that is the opposite of the Mutts Voice. And on the right, a version of her story in the Mutts Voice. Please read through each as I talk about them. On the left, you see an example that kind of praises Mutts, I guess. It seems like the intention is to compliment the organization that we took the whole family, but it feels a little gross since it takes a shot at other rescues at the same time. It's kind of depressing, and it really feels more about the person's feelings than the dog. On the right side, you see an example that shares her story and then focuses on Daisy May and all the lovely things she is rather than what has happened to her. All right, almost done. We have a few recommendations we make around communications as well. We are a Google-based organization at this point, and one pointer that has spared many permission request emails is sending documents as attachments and not Google Drive links. We ask that you get back to any message received for Mutt's work. We have a guideline of a 48-hour reply with emails and a 24-hour reply with text messages or Slack messages. These guidelines are also great to follow if you are waiting on a reply. If it is past the suggested timelines, you are free to follow up with a nudge or reminder. I know I benefit from them quite a bit. We have another standard around formatting. We limit the use of italics, bold, any kind of emphasis to one per communication. So we don't have every other sentence bolded and then colorful highlighting on full paragraphs. Think to yourself, what is the main point of the communication? And then emphasize that only. And then for next steps, I encourage you to review any existing documents you have or use often. And be sure to let me know if you see anything that isn't in the Mutts Voice, and we will work together to get it fixed. Last thing is a thank you. Thank you for your participation today and all that you do for the dogs. If you have any questions, comments, or concerns, please feel free to send me an email, and I'd be happy to discuss it. Thanks again for your time today and all that you do for the dogs. Take care.